Today we're going to be making a pinch pot that's going to have a base. That means we're going to add something to the bottom of this project to get it to kind of stand up on the table. You might add just one row, or you might add a lot of rows and get a really tall project today. So when you get your clay, you're going to want to squeeze it and break it in two. And these pieces are about equal. We're going to start with something called a pinch pot. So a pinch pot is where we're going to take our clay and we're going to squeeze it and round it into our best sphere or ball. This is an awesome 3D shape, and I am rolling it in my hands, trying to get the best sphere I can get. If it has bumps and cracks, no biggie. We're going to take this and we are going to push our thumb into the clay. So I didn't push through it. I didn't make a hole. I just pushed into it with my thumb but didn't go all the way through. My thumb is going to stay in that clay all the way down to where it bends. And now my fingers are going to try to squeeze and find the clay, or find my thumb. And you can see my clay actually moved. I'm going to turn it and I'm going to squeeze again, trying to find my thumb. And I'm going to turn again. Do you see why this is called a pinch pot? I am pinching this clay open. Now it's so big right here I can put both of my thumbs in, and my fingers are kind of doing the chicken dance, and I am going to squeeze and turn. I am not just squeezing at the very tips by my fingernails. I am squeezing like on my whole finger, like I would do the chicken dance. As I'm pinching, I am now looking for thick spots, and I am trying to squeeze those so they're nice and smooth and even. You want to be careful that you don't squeeze at the very top. You don't want an edge that's super skinny. You still want it to be nice and thick. As I'm squeezing and turning, I'm just feeling for big bumps of clay. I want to try to make this pinch pot big enough to fit my fist. Now my hands are much bigger than yours, so it's not going to fit my fist perfect, but it will probably fit on your fist. My pinch pot is finished. Now I'm going to take my time and I am going to smooth this out. And I'm going to make this really nice. And you are going to end up with an awesome project. So I'm smoothing kind of on the inside. You could take a little bit of water with your fingertip. Not a lot. My finger's barely wet. And you could use that to smooth. But you want to be so careful that you don't use too much water, because it's going to get slippery and squishy and gooey. So I'm on 2 little dabs of water to get this nice and smooth. Now I'm ready to make that attachment, and it's going to be a coil, or as kids like to call them, snakes. So I'm taking my clay project and it's wobbly. So an important step is to kind of push down in the inside to get a flat bottom. Now I'm going to flip it over and you can see where I flatten it out. I'm going to make a coil. So that means I'm going to take a piece of clay that is about the size of a bouncy ball. And I am going to roll it in my hands back and forth to get a cylinder shape. Right now it kind of looks like a big chunky caterpillar. I want to stretch it out longer and thinner. So I'm moving my mat away and I am doing this part on the table. So my hands are kind of side by side and I'm moving my clay up and down on my fingers. So right now it's on my fingernails. I'm going to roll it up on my fingers and back down. And you can see it getting bigger. I'm going to keep doing that. Now my fingers are going to have to move out as I roll. So I'm going to go to the middle and I'm moving it up and down, and I'm also moving my hands away from each other. See how much longer it's getting? I'm going to do that one more time. I'm trying to keep this clay nice and even so it's not chunky on one end. It's about as thick as my pinky. Not as long, it's much longer, but it's about as wide or chunky as my pinky. Now I'm ready to put this coil onto my clay pot. So if you can remember, when we add something to clay, we need to use a little water and a toothbrush. So I'm going to scratch a circle around the bottom of my pinch pot. And it's getting a little bit slimy and gooey. I didn't do over the whole thing, it's just around the edge. And my clay is going to wrap right on top of where I scratched it. I have a little bit too much, so I'm just going to break it off. And now, so important, down here on the inside, I'm going to kind of push this clay together. So really gently, just on the inside. This part is really going to make this coil stick. That is all you have to attach. It's on there good. I scored it, I slipped it, that was the toothbrush stuff, and then I smeared it on. If you want your pot to be taller, you can use your clay and you can make more coils. So I'm going to go kind of speedy with this one. On the table, rolling, moving my hands out. And I want to stop when it gets about as thick as my pinky. That's looking good. So if you want to put another row on, you're just going to keep repeating with the toothbrush right on top of that coil. I'm going to add water. That's a lot of water. I'm actually going to pour some of it out into my dish. Now my coil goes right on top. I'm going to break it, and the really important step is to smear those together. I like to use this hand to kind of push, and I'm turning my clay. Your limit today means you cannot have more than 5 coils. So I have enough clay to put another one on. Toothbrush, clay on top, break off the extra, and smear. So you have to have one of these rows of coils, and you can have as many as 5. So as you can see, it's getting taller. It's looking like a cup, and it's hollow here. That means I don't have coils in here. I still see this opening, this circle. When you have your coil or coils attached, your last step is to add some decoration. So you have tools on your table. You could gently roll some of these marker caps. You can see I'm getting a cool texture. You could use them and gently make a texture of circles, or the bottom of this cap has a cool star shape. You can also do that on the outside of your dish. When you are finished, you're going to leave this at your spot on your cloth so that Mrs. Cleary can come around and write your name on the bottom, and she'll write it really carefully around the edge. Your job at cleanup time is to put your tools back on your tray, to bring up any extra clay to Mrs. Cleary's table, and then you'll have to wash your hands before you have free choice.